Welcome everyone to Events Reimagined. On behalf of GSD Solutions, I am Emily Adeyanju and I'm so pleased to have Rachel Green join us. This conversation will be about how to transfer your skills to virtual events. Rachel is the founder of Cocktails, which interrupts the pattern of events with a unique virtual experience that celebrates engagement and storytelling. Rachel has been on high-profile stages and featured in Fox, NBC, ABC, and big news network publications. She has over 10 years experience in the events and food and beverage industries and has made cocktails virtually for thousands of people around the world. So let's jump right in. Rachel, how about you tell us about your journey so far?
Oh man, well Emily, thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure. And when Georgie reached out to me about this event, I was super excited. Our journey, right? Well, our journey like starts all the way back, like the little pieces and breadcrumbs that we get along the way, right? But when I started to do liquor sales after I was a mixologist, after did all sorts of front of house beverage management. I ran in-person events, caterings, and different things. I was a liquor sales rep, and I started to do these in-person cocktail classes and spirits demonstrations, and I fell in love with the synapses that would happen when people that were attendees of these particular events or people of staff were able to be like, oh, I get it. I get why it's tied to this piece of history, or I get why it's why I have to open a tin like this, or I have to shake it like this, right? So when I started to see these things happen and these little transformations that happen in people's days, I really fell in love with this because it felt like I was making a real impact as opposed to just distributing alcohol, right? So when the pandemic hit, I started to do live streaming on my own personal network Facebook profile. And I really started to see how it was changing people's lives as they were sitting at home, didn't really know what else to do. And also people who were introverted and not necessarily wanted to go and be out and about, but they wanted to have those experiences, were able to in the comforts of their own home. So it evolved to doing personal parties, B2B, and now I do client-facing events, team building experiences, and all sorts of different things from, audio only experiences on Clubhouse to, reels and stuff on social media. So it's super fun.
Wow, that's a very interesting transformation in your journey. And in addition to that, this will be more skills related. Like, what skills did you have that you transferred to virtual events?
I love it. Yeah. So virtual events it's two different pieces, right? It's the technology piece, the behind the scenes piece, and it's the front facing. So a lot of what I have is those front facing skills. I am a little bit tech savvy, but it's things that you just get to experience or experiment with, right? Like learning how to run a Facebook Live, learning how to position yourself in a span of 30 minutes to have an intro, to have those little captivating transformational moments, and to have a closing, right? A call to action at the end, something like that. So the things that have really helped me along the way is I've been holding a microphone since I was 7 years old. I always loved to be on camera. I always loved to be in front of an audience. And when I was a bartender, it was kind of like having a personal stage. The beauty of what we have now is that we have access to Facebook Live, Instagram Live, LinkedIn Live, all of these different things so that we're able to tap into our own virtual stage a lot more easy. So luckily we have technology, but it can also be a little bit of a learning curve, right? So those are some of the things that you can anticipate learning as you're stepping onto your own virtual stage. But it's also having that mindset of, okay, I'm speaking to a camera, but I'm speaking to everyone else that's on the other side of that camera. So who am I speaking to? What's going to transform that moment for them? And how can I incorporate more surprise and delight like we do like we do in the food and beverage industry when we present a plate that has a bunch of, beautiful things on there and the flavor. So how can we access those five senses and also the different things like that? But yeah.
Wow, that's a great. Thank you for sharing that. And like as you're just talking about how you began holding a microphone to now doing things virtually, I'm just like curious to know, and I think also our viewers, how long did it take you to transition? Because I know COVID hit in 2020, so I'm curious to know were you already thinking about going virtual, or you feel like COVID actually contributed to you investing in the virtual events world?
Yeah, I think I've always been inspired by events, and I wasn't in the virtual space before the pandemic at all. Like it didn't. I didn't really even know. I've been to a couple of, maybe webinar or something like that, but I personally hadn't been in the virtual events or virtual space at all. I was very much. I'm like, one of my love languages is like physical touch. Like I'm one of those people that just really loves to be connecting with others.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did join into the virtual community last March, I fell in love with the ability to create magic within these four walls that we have in our space, right? And cultivating the space, utilizing all the dimensions of this space within our own box, but also cultivating an environment that really can change people's day. That at the end of the call, they can go and spend time with their family. They can go back to work. They can go and do the things that they want. So as the more I started to learn about the things that people were looking for within virtual events, the more I fell in love with the climate in virtual. And so I don't really anticipate myself spending too much time away from virtual. I mean, going forward, I really do anticipate the future being virtual.
Wow. And also, knowing that I think some of our viewers must be wondering or asking themselves how you do the cocktails in the virtual world. And I'm curious to know, like, geographically, like if we're in New York and let me say where are you currently based right now?
Yeah, I'm based in Charlotte. Hold on, I forgot to plug in my computer.
As you can see, the background is all cocktails. So,
Yeah, I'm based in Charlotte.
mm-hmm.
Funny how that happens when technology works, right? Okay, so there we go. Back in action. So I'm based in Charlotte, North Carolina. I did a lot of the world of mixology and cocktails when I lived in California, and I saw the focus on storytelling. I saw the focus on the history of cocktails and why things are structured. And I'm mathematically pretty driven. So when I started to see there's formulas within cocktails beyond, well, this one has one part this and one part this, right? And they're all different. When I started to see that there were similarities among every single cocktail out there, I realized, wow, it's cocktail theory, right? And so I moved here to Charlotte, and I was excited to share that with the world over here.
Wow.
I already knew like the mixology community, but people in the B2B space for sure.
Wow, thank you for sharing that with us. On to our next question. What should people be considering when thinking about transferring the skills? Because like someone like me, I'm just like inspired by knowing, hey, you can move anything to the virtual world, and you are proof, you're a testament that you can even do cocktails. So what do you think are those things that we should confront, those figures we should confront and put behind us and say, you know what, I can do this regardless, because many times when you hear virtual world, um many people think it's limited to specific things, but yeah, we are curious to know what are those skills what are those things we should be considering when thinking to transfer our skills.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you were talking about too, like how were you able to transfer something like cocktails into a virtual world or virtual experience? You can still activate the five senses without ever touching someone, without ever serving someone a drink physically. Because think about like Martha Stewart, or think about think about people who are fitness instructors, right? They get people to take action. They get people to follow through and imagine themselves tasting those flavors. I mean, how many of us watch Food Network, right? And then all of a sudden we're just like, salivating and really imagining ourselves in that experience. Well, it's the same thing, except it's one level more interactive, right? So imagine if Martha Stewart was guiding you through this thing and then being like, Emily, I see what you're doing there. Give it an extra stir here. It's going to make all the difference, right? So when we have that extra level in, it not only makes it easier for people to comprehend what they're doing and their experience that they're tuned into, but it gives that extra level of support and connection to the experience. So when we're talking about stepping onto the virtual stage, right, and sharing our skills, in actuality, all the processes that we have normalized in our lives, right? So me, it was cocktails. You might be virtual events for you. It might, like everyone, it might be crocheting for somebody else or yoga instructing, right? Those processes are normalized and we think about them in a particular way in which they have to be delivered, when in actuality, imagine you can only serve one person at a time. You're only knitting for yourself, right? Or crocheting for yourself. But if you were able to explain when you were able to learn a new knot, right? Or if you were able to share with someone, hey, like instead of, doing your downward dog like this, if you actually position your hips a little bit higher, you'll get more of a stretch in your hamstring. So we're able to tap into and share our knowledge and share our transformational experiences with more people without being limited by borders, without being limited by time zones, because we can upload those things to our calendars. So just because you think a process is mundane because you've practiced it all your life, like guitar or something, people are looking on 3 different platforms to discover these particular skill sets. One of those is social media, right? People are discovering people based off of interest naturally because of networking, right? Search engines, that being Google, YouTube, and Pinterest, right? People are going on Google, YouTube, and Pinterest to discover new experiences, discover how to do something, right? So if those people on YouTube are doing it, right, then you're able to turn anything that you have into an experience because it's bringing people to the moment, right? And then events being the third platform, right? So utilizing events to share your message, utilizing that to give people a peek into a world that's normalized by you, but might be novelty to others.
Wow. We appreciate those 3 things to keep in mind: social media, the search engines, and events. And I think by engaging in those, we can get to know what we can do to connect people. And to our next question, if you could go back in time to pre-pandemic, what would you change?
In regards to what?
In regards to how events have been, you know, um, have been carried on, in regards to how events have been conducted, basically, what would you change?
Yeah, I think that people before the pandemic, people got into their headspace of this is how you do an event. You got to go X, Y, Z, da, 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 and success, right?
Yeah.
If you follow this guideline, then you will achieve success, right? And the people that are attending these events, they're also expecting that same kind of thing, right? But what the beauty of the pandemic offered was the interruption of the pattern, right? When we interrupt the pattern, we give an opportunity for innovation and surprise and delight. So when, let's say, now we have that foundation, right, of how events should be structured, and now we have this new challenge that we have to overcome. When we come out the other side of this, because it interrupted our own pattern, we now become more resilient and versatile in our ability to deliver a desired outcome and end in mind goal of a particular client, right? So seek for challenges, seek for opportunities. I think that a lot of people were happy with the way that things were because it was easy to execute and then they can go about their daily lives, right? But then you have people who are focused on event design, that are focused on interrupting the pattern. And those people are the ones that are being highlighted and elevated, like you guys. Events reimagined, right? So we get to reimagine this process of being something that we get to focus more about what that end in mind goal is. Like think big, think wild, think like, because at this point within virtual, we have the metaverse, right? We have virtual reality, we have augmented reality, we have platforms of all different shapes and sizes and colors. And it spawned innovation. So instead of being stuck in a particular way of what events should and have looked like, we get to look at it from a new perspective.
Awesome. Yes, events reimagined. And I've really enjoyed hearing your different new ideas and insights on events reimagined. And I'm sure that it wasn't just a roller coaster. It wasn't just an easy path for you to get into where you are now with events reimagined. I mean, with the cocktails on virtual events. So could you share with us any, like, what excites you about what you do, and also how do you turn your challenges into going forward?
I love that. So the the challenges we face unlock the doors of success of the future. The challenges we come across where we're faced with indecision, right? Like this week, I was like, I was presented with so many good opportunities that I had to like say no to a couple of opportunities that I wanted to say yes to. And that's a struggle in its own right. But the challenges we face and the decisions we make around those challenges carve our path for our own success. So we have to have that end in mind goal and what success looks and feels like for us as an independent person, not what they think success is, not what they think success is, right? Not the Maserati and the whatever. What does success look and feel like to you? Maybe it's a happy home life. Maybe it's a whatever, right? So we have to remember that as challenges come up in our lives, it's not just around work that we challenge with, especially when we're working from home, being in the virtual space. We have to remember that there's so much balance that comes in. So how I approach challenges that come up is I try to see like, where is, like, if I make this decision, what is the outcome and where is that going to take me? Or what is the opportunity cost? Is this particular instance going to catapult me into the next phase that I want to, or is saying no to it allowing me to ground down and become better in my strategy? What is more important to me and my priorities at this time? So it's usually with challenges we face, it's a lot of prioritization and it's a lot of leading with love, right? Because we have challenges in communication that come up within virtual as well, because time passes like we're in a casino when we're in the virtual world because we're inside all the time. Yeah. So it's really important to stay on top of communication, to lead with love and vulnerability, right? Like, hey, this happened. What is your perspective on this? Ask questions and being really open-minded so that you can innovate in your ability to communicate as well. Because how we communicate, like people that have communicated a certain way 50 years ago, that doesn't work today, right? So we have to be open to the ability to communicate in new and innovative ways so that people feel seen, feel heard. There's less turnover in client relationships, in team relationships, and beyond, so that we can grow as a community more synergistic than ever. And as a solopreneur, that means people that are my strategic partners. How can I serve them better? How can I continue to keep my cup full so that I can serve from an overflowing cup for the people that have really prioritized me as well?
Wow, thank you so much, Rachel. It has been an honor having you on this series of Events Reimagined. And I think I've learned so much from this session, and I'm sure even our viewers um, are going to have a lot to learn from. And also we'll be playing your sessions on our different social media platforms. And I think my take home is that with virtual events, it's about connecting people, having that connection. So yeah, I think just knowing that it's not just limited to just one thing, but as long as you can do something that is going to connect people, and so that's something that I'm really looking into, and seeing how can I also connect with people in my own way, just like how you have in cocktails. And at GSD we shall continue featuring different professionals like you in the field, so that we can encourage others to be inspired to join virtual events. And yeah, so can you please share with us, I can see you have your social media handle. Is that the one that shares to all other media
platforms? This is Instagram.
Okay.
So that's Instagram. It's RG Cocktails on Twitter, but I don't really spend a lot of time on there. I do have a Facebook group called Recipes for Success, which talks about the business side of things, engagement, and not in all platforms, right? Engagement in how to leverage our different platforms that we have and drive more engagement and connection. So I lead with cocktails and events, obviously, because I love it. But I also love supporting other people on this journey as well. But yeah, so I have that, and you can feel free to shoot me a DM on Rach Green Cocktails here, and I can connect you with any sort of resources that I have for you.
Thank you. And yeah, our viewers, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more sessions, and please follow Rachel. So you can keep on connecting with other people through cocktails. And Rachel, it's been an honor to have you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much, Emily. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Same here.
Cheers.
Yeah. Oh,
Love
okay.
it.